Hey guys, Arm&Gun here. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to wrap up our week with the APC223. So that's, if you're new to my channel, the way I do these is I spend a week focusing on one gun. So if you want to know more about the APC, I've got like over an hour worth of content out here already, including shooting it, taking it apart, checking out the internals, intro, the modularity, and then finally we're going to wrap it up here with my overview. I'm gonna quickly go through the full gun and just discuss it, like just its features, and then I'm gonna cover my overall impressions of it as well. So again, we're talking about this gun here today, which is chambered in 223 or 556. There is also a very identical version that's chambered in 300 blackout. The only difference with that one is you're gonna notice it's got a shorter gas system. So actually the handguard, it scallops up here and it's shorter. So it's actually a really neat looking rifle. I'm quite fond of it, but I digress. Again, there's an APC 308 sitting here and a B&T USW. These are all B&T guns, and I've already actually covered the USW and the 308. Full video series on those guys already on my channel. Just check back a few weeks, and yeah. So, kicking this thing off again, 223 semi-automatic rifle. There's obviously select fire versions available for law enforcement, people that are appropriately licensed. At this time in my country, in Canada, I'm not appropriately licensed for anything other than semi-automatic, so working on that, trying to bring some exciting content in the new year, but and hopefully I can have something other than a blast deflector here. Because B&T makes some gorgeous suppressors that I would love to be able to have here on the channel and be able to demonstrate. So I'm definitely looking forward to that in the new year. I've got a solid relationship with Wolverine Supplies. They're the Canadian distributor, and I'm pretty sure if I'm appropriately licensed, I'll be able to access a lot of that cool stuff for this channel. So if you like B&T, stick around. We're gonna have a good new year. They've got all the fun toys: select fire, integrally suppressed, APC9, just tons of cool stuff. So, anyways, that's a tangent. This again, the blast deflector. I mentioned in a previous video I was going to take a bit of time to explain what this is, so stick around. I'll cover in more detail, how this goes on and what's so great about it, and why I like it. And otherwise, without further ado, here is the APC223. We'll just prove that clear really quickly. I've got it kind of in, I guess, just an SBR loadout here. This is B&T's factory folding stock. It's also telescopic, and it's got a provision here for a cheek piece. You can just pop on a little cheek piece if you want a little more, rise for your optics, because these guns do set pretty low, which is just fine. That's the way she goes. I've got, again, an LCAD Inspector DR on here. I love these optics, but I've talked about those things all the time, so I'll keep it brief. Got factory Ruger and Helmet flip-up sights as well. They're quite stout sights. I mean, they're very low profile, and they are polymer, but they're sturdy. So I do, definitely a solid upgrade over your your Magpul MBUS type sights. This is also a Ruger and Helmet vertical forward grip. Really nice little unit, quick to attach. You just spin off this dial, and then it comes loose and you pop it off. But I'll leave that on there for now. I've also got a folding charging handle on here. You buy these separate. They do not come with the gun typically. Typically they come outfitted with this style of charging handle here. It's just this knob. I guess while we're at it here, we'll prove that gun clear as well. APC 308. This thing is, honestly, I'm so impressed with this gun. Shooting wise, it was great. Fed super reliably from a variety of mags. And man, this would give the Scar a run for its money. And if you don't believe me, well, you got to get your hands on one and try it out, because I love it. Anyways, the whole video series dedicated to that, so I'm not going to talk about it much. But this little flipping or folding charging handle is actually really quite nice. When you lock the bolt back, and then you got, okay, actually your controls here as well. So as you're seeing already here, this is a reciprocating charging handle. Not a huge fan of that, though. It's the way it is right now. B&T has already addressed this issue when they were doing their subcompact weapon contract for the United States, the military, and they actually won that contract with the APC9 Pro, APC9K Pro actually. which is a phenomenal little gun. I got a chance again to handle one at Wolverine Supplies, and I loved it. I cannot wait for those to be approved for the Canadian public, because I'm going to be all over one. That actually, they've gone to a dual ambidextrous folding handle system, and it's on both sides of the gun. This one you can switch over, but you can only have one on at a time, and it's also non-reciprocating. So they figured that out. I love it. That was one of my biggest gripes with this platform, was that you couldn't, it was reciprocating. For me, it's a problem because I've trained myself, for better or for worse, to lots of times come up here and grip around, grip the gun like this. Sometimes if a charging handle's here, I'll just tuck my thumb up over it, and then I'll go to shoot the gun, and I lock it up because I prevent it from cycling. So I did that actually a number of times in my 308 shooting video, because I was swapping out the charging handle from side to side, and then later on, once I swapped it to this side, I started having issues, and I was like, what's going on? Was the gun having malfunctions? And I quickly realized, no, it was me. And I mean, you could also address that by putting your, a short grip to train yourself out of that, get yourself used to using a short grip that's close, tucked back to the mag well, and slowly work ahead. Train out of the problem. But for me, this also works very well because this is low profile and it stays flipped down. It's got a nice little detent system in there. So you're gonna, when you're shooting this thing, it's not gonna, even if you have your hands up here, it might bump your hands up, but it shouldn't impede function because you're not gonna actually, it's gonna slip around your thumb a lot more easily than hooking it on this guy. So that was just an anecdote that I was gonna share with you because I was getting through my modularity video, the one I posted yesterday, and I came to it, and then I was like, you know what, wait, I'm saving this for the overview because it's more indicative of my overall opinion of the gun. So that was one major beef I had, the non-reciprocating or the reciprocating action, and again, I believe they're going to address that. I have two other beefs, one also that I believe they're already addressing, but I'll get to that a little bit later here. So we've got this SBR here, reciprocating action. This is one of the smoothest actions I've ever felt. For me, shooting this gun as well, shooting impressions, SBR 5.56, which can be, and this is a 10.4 inch barrel. A Mark 18, like I've heard lots of reports of those being really unpleasant to shoot because of the way they're gassed and the way, the sharp recoiling. They're just not that pleasant to shoot, and they've got some reliability issues. They can have reliability issues. This thing has functioned for me phenomenally. I've never had an issue with it, and it's the smoothest shooting SBR. I've compared this closely to the Bushmaster ACR last week, which was my feature gun last week. The Bushmaster ACR is a lot of great things as well. It's got a very slick action. It's incredibly modular. It's more modular currently than this gun, though I am contacting B&T to see what can be done about swapping barrels. And before I rip mine apart, because I could just rip mine apart here as well, because obviously you undo these bolts and then you can pull the barrel out. But I wanted to know if there's any, if there's any headspace things, or if I need to pay attention to anything on the flip side once I reinstall it. So I wanted to check with them first, and then I'm actually going to return with the APC223, APC308 in another video segment, and I'm going to do some barrel swaps and further explore that modularity once I can. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit off track here. This gun is functioned really smoothly, and in comparison with the ACR, this one just is smoother. I took the ACR, the APC223, and another gun, which happens to be the bonus gun at the end of this video, so stick around if you want to see that. Fired them all basically like one after another when I did my shooting videos, and this was the winner. They were all close. They're all fantastic guns. Don't get me wrong on that. They're all fantastic. But this one, for me anyways, again, this is subjective, but I'm trying to go off of relatively, objective things, and just smoothest, the most pleasurable experience I've had with an SBR. My uncle ended up showing up at the range day too. He just heard I was out there at the local range where my family is where they're from, and he heard I was out there. Hadn't shot a gun in a long time. Again, this is another anecdote, but I think it's kind of fitting. And he just showed up, had a bit of a chat. He hadn't shot a handgun. I don't know if he's ever shot a handgun. Definitely hadn't shot one of these, or really like a black rifle. So I got him started with a handgun. Really enjoyed that. He got to shoot this guy as well, the B&T USW. I started him off with a little 22 long rifle handgun, and then we did that one with the stock deployed as well. This thing is awesome. But he really enjoyed that. Had a steel target, which you just, you ring the steel target, and that gives a new shooter just an awesome feedback loop, sense of like that they hit the target, real great sense of satisfaction. And he was definitely one of those types that was less, didn't think you need, like, why do you need an AK-47? Why do you need an AR-15? Like, why do people need these guns? He was a little bit of that sentiment, and tried this thing out, loved it. Literally, he said by the end of the range day, he was going to go and apply for his RPAL because he wanted to get some restricted firearms. In Canada, that means your restricted license. These are a different class than this. You can own this because it's somehow different. It's got a long barrel. That's a whole other video topic, so I'm not going to get into the weeds on that one here. But suffice to say, I gave him 2 B&T guns, and he decided he was going to become a gun owner. So he said he hadn't even shot, like, he'd shot hunting rifles in the past, but he said it'd probably been even 10 years since he shot one of those. So great experience. I left the range feeling pretty satisfied too that that had happened, and I was pretty pumped about that. So it just renewed my my goal of what I'm doing here and trying to get cool guns out to more people, more knowledge about them, to just increase our base, get more people to see, get rid of the stigmas around these things and see that they can be great sporting tools, and people can have a lot of fun with them, whether they're law enforcement, whether they're just civilians in a target range, whether they're using them for hunting or something else. In Canada, personal defense with a firearm is a pretty touchy subject, but in a lot of other places like the United States, it's totally justifiable and totally legit, or a reason for having a firearm. So it's just nice to get more of that good information out there and get more of this content out there. And I apologize, a huge tangent. So getting back to the gun here, it's got your pick rails, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Those are right into this handguard. Then there's these covers right here. Underneath these covers is an M-LOK slot. B&T also includes some polymer, nice quality polymer pick rails, very lightweight. They go on there really nicely. You can put those in there instead. I've opted for these HDC rail covers, panel covers. They're really nice. They're aluminum. They're a company in the States. They make a few accessories for the APC and a few other things. Just a nice little touch. This is B&T's factory 2-chamber muzzle brake. Great device. Quite a bit of recoil mitigation, and that comes with the creation of quite a bit of concussion. So basically what happens is the hot gases coming out of the barrel after the projectile, they hit these flat surfaces, these baffles, and external baffles, they don't do anything to reduce the sound, of course, but they basically serve as a flat surface for those releasing and quickly expanding gases to push against, and they actually push the front of the rifle forward. So they're gonna mitigate some of that, oftentimes up to 2/3 of the resulting pushing back from the projectile leaving the barrel. So that's really cool. I've always really admired the functionality of brakes, but then again, you get this byproduct of all of this concussion, and it can be, after a while, annoying for a shooter as well. If you're taking this in a closed range, an indoor range, and you're in a little shooting bay, it can be deafening and it can give you a headache and whatever else. But they make these nice devices now called blast deflectors. Great for CQB stuff as well, or if you're training or you're running training with other people in close quarters. Just slip this on, spin this dial, nice and, well, it's not really tight yet, but it gets on there nice and tight. And what that does is it traps all that concussion and it just chucks it forward away from everybody. So it just sends it downrange. And again, these are illegal in Canada, or they're legal in Canada because, and they're not considered a suppressor anywhere else either, because they don't suppress or really modify the sound. They just send some of that sound signature forward. They don't take anything away from it. It's just, the gun is going to sound louder downrange than it is right by your ear. I might actually be getting a bit into the weeds by that either, and I haven't tested that out with like a Doppler or not a sound meter. I'm getting a bit off my wheelhouse there, but essentially it's going to send that concussion downrange. Regardless of any kind of sound modification, it's going to send that concussion, and that's really nice. I've got a number of them from these guys and also the Surefire Warden's AAC Blast Out. Lots of great products. I do really quite enjoy them. And they look cool. Again, for a Canadian that can't have a suppressor, it's the next kind of closest thing for cool factor, which doesn't really count for much, but hey, you play with what you can. So let's touch on the ergs really quickly here as well. We have a safety selector. These are ambidextrous. We've got a magazine release, also ambidextrous. And then this bolt catch and release here. This is on both sides, somewhat similar to the idea of, well, very similar to how the SIG 540 and SIG 550s have their bolt release. Basically just draw the action, or draw the bolt back, slide up, it's gonna retain it, right? And then you're gonna depress it, it's gonna go home, and that's how it works. Again, I don't really like, this is another beef that I had with the gun, was the placement of this. It can be quite a bit more challenging if you got a full mag with a lot of pressure, you know, a lot of follower pressure on this tab. It can be a little more challenging to get that to depress. Also, when you're using it with the telescopic stock, if the telescopic stock is compressed, basically you don't have access to this. It's you'd have to like reach in there and like pry it down with something. So for that reason, I'm not a big fan of that either. I do much more prefer the location when they're further down here, when the bolt release is down, and especially like the ACR and the Robinson Arms XCR do this phenomenally. There are other drawbacks with those weapon systems that B&T does better, but those guns definitely have the bolt catch and release, you know, just figured out. It's awesome. I really like that it's a different style of movement. You know, you're not pushing, you're actually lifting or dropping, which they've done here as well. Just the placement is awkward. It's hard to get leverage when you're extending up like this. It's easier when it's right in here, you know, not inside the trigger guard, but just like on the side of it over here by the mag well. So for me, anyways, that's my personal preference, but that's where I like to see them. So that was my second big gripe, and I don't know if they've addressed that yet. Like they've started addressing these in some of their systems. The third gripe I will get to in a second here. Again, phenomenal gun, very expensive. It's a tough purchase decision to make with some of these things. I mean, I got the USW years ago, and I've never regretted it. I've always really enjoyed this gun, though. I mean, it's quite value packed for what you get. I mean, you pay a lot, but you get, you know, a stock housing. It depends on what country you're in, if you get the stock right off the bat or not. But I mean, it's not an expensive stock. But you get this optics bridge, this stock housing, the light, the class 3 holster, several mags, and it is a great pistol to begin with. It's a high quality. It's based on the Sphinx, which was a Swiss handgun, and lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff. But expensive. I've never regretted that purchase decision. Was basically what my intent behind this was. I picked this thing up used for a good deal, which is why I jumped on it. Like with the skeleton stocks that these things initially came with, I really wasn't a fan of that, and I wasn't gonna jump and spend the full retail until I saw more aftermarket support or more stocks out. This is back in 2016 when these things came out in my country, and I think probably the United States around that time as well. But when I saw the telescopic stock become available, at that point in time, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna look for one of these. One happened to pop up used, got a killer deal on it, and then I just fell in love with it since then. Swapped with the charging handle, swapped with the stock to the telescopic, the PDW one, loved it. And ever since then, I've been really happy with this as well, and I would happily recommend this to anyone. The APC308 I don't own. This was lent to me by Wolverine Supplies, but it is a fantastic rifle. Now that I've had it and shot it, I definitely want one of these too. But that one, that's a bank breaker a little bit, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make that work long term, once they make me give it back to them. But nonetheless, I digress. That will eventually find its way into my collection because this is such a nice, modern, semi-automatic 308 platform. Like it's like it's a new purpose-built 308 DMR, and I love it. So accuracy, will be curious to test on this one because I've heard accuracy on these guys isn't phenomenal. Even with the long barrel, I was hearing results. A magazine company in Canada called Caliber Mag, they did a pretty extensive review on it. And accuracy-wise, they tested accuracy quite well. The best group they got was about a little over 1.5 MOA. So definitely nothing to you know shake a stick at. But at the same time, it was, you would think Switzerland, like these came off of the SIG 550 line, and those were known for being incredibly accurate guns, semi-automatic even. And those things are essentially running on an improved AK system. So I would like to see tighter, tall, or whatever, more accuracy. I'm not sure what the compromises are because these are very reliable, and lots of times there's trade-offs there. This is also, well, I guess those guns are piston guns too. Sometimes pistons can be a little less reliable on some of these like intermediate caliber semi-automatic platforms, but I don't know, guys. I would have thought like sub MOA honestly out of these guns, and the 308 may be. I haven't tested that for accuracy at all. I've literally just shot steel with it, and I don't know anyone that's actually tested accuracy in this platform. So I'll be really curious to do that. I'm going to do that in the new year. Definitely not giving it back to Wolverine Supplies until I have gotten a chance to do some accuracy testing with it. So that's still yet to come. And I'm on another tangent here. So the gun breaks apart really easily. There's just a rear pin and the front pin, much like an AR-15 designer, or kind of like the SCAR is a little bit different, but I digress. You just pop the pin out, you drive it out, lower hinges down, pop the stock out, the internals come out like nothing. The gas system, which now comes out very nicely because I cleaned it in my disassembly video, I had a bit of a problem and it would not come out. I actually got stuck here. So this gas port here will get fairly, the carbon will get in there, and it's a snug fit. So if you get too much carbon, caked in there, I literally had it like in the right position to come out, but I just couldn't get it out. So, and if you go through my disassembly video, you will see when that happens, because I didn't cut anything out. I just left it there while you bared with me while I unstuck it. But nonetheless, it was very simple to clean. A little bit of G96 for a couple minutes, wiped it off, and it's back in there, and it was nice and smooth. So all good there. Last gripe, this lower. Not a fan of the fact that I can't swap out the pistol grip. I have definitely had my preferences now with interchangeable AR grips, and you know what? This grip I also felt was too long. I'm not sure how what the decision here was, but it's easily an extra 1 to 1.5 finger lengths, longer than it needs to be. And you don't really notice as much with a 30 round mag, but if you're trying to be really concealing this thing, or really like running a compact rig, and you run a 10 or a 20 round mag, well then your grip becomes so much longer than anything else on the gun. I just didn't like that. But now already, again, the APC9 was the same thing. The GHM9, all the Gen 1 guns were the same. Now this gun, the APC308, they've gone to a metal lower. This now takes a removable AR grip, so I'm tickled pink. I'm a happy camper, and I'm just now waiting until they re-release the 223 line with that grip. So I've also seen other handguards that have more milling out, which I think look better, and they'd also be a little bit lighter too, which is cool, and they dissipate a little more heat. So that'd be nice to get one of those as well. I'm not sure why we're still getting the old school handguards, because typically when I see these in the States or anywhere else, they've got more cutouts and whatnot on them. But that's just an observation. These stocks are all cross compatible, so you can put I put the PDW stock that I bought with this gun on this gun, so you can run your 223s on your 308s. The B&T did say that for the 9mm guns it's different, so I haven't tested that out. I don't know. Perhaps I can swipe. I mean, if maybe the 9s are similar enough. I don't know. I can't confirm or deny that yet. But I do definitely enjoy the fact that I can swap them, and the unique dampening system that I didn't get to yet. So this is such a smooth gun, I think partially because when the gun recoils, you get to this point right here. So this initially is very smooth. Just the unlocking is unbelievably smooth. It takes absolutely no effort when you drop the bolt in without the charging handle. I do this in my disassembly video. You can just literally reach inside and just slide it back, and it just unlocks, and it's like butter. And then when you get here, you start to depress the hammer. You'd be recocking the trigger. And then you get to this point, and you start to engage the dampening system. So from here, you hear a little squish, and that's that hydraulic buffer engaging. Really slick system. And it does an amazing job of just, it comes back to here, engages that, and that prevents that harsh bottoming out that, again, like a Mark 18, something like that's going to have. And then it gets absorbed in there and spread out over a longer period of time. I mean, you don't really get rid of recoil. You change it. So putting brakes on, you change it into concussion. You coming back here. That recoil is just being spread out over more time. Again, I mentioned this in another video. It's much like my Lynx, my shooting. When I shot the GM6 Lynx, a 50 cal bullpup, that long recoil action. I mean, you're not just getting it boom right then. Everything exits, and then there's a big spring inside the barrel. And as it's coming in, I mean, that you as a shooter are still getting all the recoil, or at least I guess the majority of it, but you're experiencing it over, instead of like boom, like a snap second, you're experiencing it over, an interval. Maybe it is still a split second, but it divides that by the amount of time you experience it over. So you as an individual, you just get more of like a push. And it's an amazing, amazing gun. Go check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. That's all, like basically my most viewed video at this point. So I'm pretty excited about that. But anyways, I've covered my gripes. I've covered the other videos or the guns and the thing. Quick shout out to Tom at Go Big Tactical. He's going to be your zero compromise dealer for Canada. These are incredible scopes. And this is a really nice scope for a DMR platform. It's a 4x20 ultra short. I love it. These guys are really making the name for themselves in the PRS community. And I just absolutely love it. Accutech bipod. I'm having another video for this thing coming out pretty soon. Like, definitely go check out Custom Smith Manufacturing. He makes some really cool B&T accessories, TP9s, USWs, GHM9, APC9, lots of great stuff. And I've got some really cool stuff coming from him soon. Again, it's Custom Smith Manufacturing. And I'll do another video with his upgrades on the USW here once they get in here. So that's it for all these. I still got the bonus gun coming here in a quick second. Again, more questions on the APC9 or APC223 rather, or any of these other guns, or any guns that I've so far featured. Just check out my channel, check out the other videos. Well over an hour of content now on this thing. I see I've been talking for like 25 minutes here. So thanks for sticking with me if you have. If you want to contribute in any way to this channel, I've got a day job, so it's getting tricky to keep this filming routine up. But if you want to chip in, Patreon, I've got a link at the end here. Just click on there. You can also just read my bio if you just want to kind of learn a little bit more about me and how I got into guns and why I'm doing this, and actually even why I'm asking for funds, because again, I have a job, pay for all my own stuff. I've paid for all the stuff you see here over a number of years. Again, I'm not some rich dude. I've just focused all my disposable income into this stuff because I've wanted to build up a collection and start a channel for a number of years here. So you're just seeing that right now. If you saw my car, you would be thinking quite the opposite. But that's, hey, you know, you make decisions, you make sacrifices for different areas of your life to support different things. So anyways, getting a little personal there. But if you want to learn a little bit more about myself or my background, sorry, just my story, that's just in Patreon. You can just read that there. And otherwise, my Instagram, my Facebook, I'll have links for those in the description. Other technical specs on the gun in my description. And that's all I have for you other than the bonus gun, which is the 416A5, or at least the civilian equivalent. This is a MR223A3, the new guy. And you can tell that by this new ambi mag release and this really cool new ambi bolt release. I love this thing. Again, it's still up in this area, though being an AR platform, it's a little more forgiving. You know, nothing is going to be in the way over there. Of course, there's compromises. I mean, you have a charging handle back here, which I'm not as thrilled about, but still very good. Even with the injection cover, you can just drop this guy here. I'm just going to catch it so it doesn't completely block up my mic. I need a better mic because when this thing hears a loud noise, it just shuts down, and then whatever I say for like 10 seconds is just muted and slowly gets louder. So I find that a bit frustrating, but I need to get some better sound and lighting equipment here. Nonetheless, this is just an awesome gun. Again, really nice factory trigger from HK, and the really cool thing you can do with this is with the hammer down, you can still engage the safety. I really like that functionality. Again, another L-can, love these things. And so this gun here, I still have to, this is the 11-inch barrel now, not the 10.4s that the 416s, the A1s had. This is now the 11-inch, hard chromed, really nice rig, heavy profile, but I still found this thing to recoil harder than this guy with the 10.4. And this is still a piston gun too, so it's I mean, it's not apples to apples, but it's still pistons to pistons, and it's close. I may also have, I mean, I'm not running this thing exactly stock, so there's another caveat there. I've got a silent JP captured buffer spring in here, and I pulled it off a short 9-inch 300 blackout. So I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I'm not even sure which one I pulled it off of, but it might have had too light of a spring in it. So it might be acting like a light buffer, and this thing, the heavier buffer, you know, that might mitigate some of the recoil. So it's still running 100%. Though in my shooting video, and I've got a number of questions about this, so I'm going to address it right now really quickly. In one of the last shots, or one of the shots, the charging handle comes unlatched, and you know, the bolts just doing its thing. It locks back, but the charging handle also flies back like this. And this is after my last shot. So again, the bolts lock back, but the charging handle just dislodges and flies back. Again, no injury or no chance of that to me, because it's not being carried with any kind of velocity. It's just, it's free of the bolt, so it's just floating. But what I think happened is, because I'm running that lighter JP buffer spring in there, the carrier must just be imparting too much backwards momentum, and maybe that just happened to be enough to overcome this latch and have this thing just come back with that, that force of inertia, essentially. So, or reverse inertia, whatever that is. Anyways, that was just my quick comment on that. This is still a fantastic system, possibly the best AR-15 out there. Changed my mind. But I got a whole video series, well, not a whole video series, but I have a video series on this thing as well. I've got a full disassembly video, pull out the gas system, got an overview, and then the shooting video. So it's out there, but I do love this gun. Except for this H key rail, this has to go soon. Okay, I'm gonna drop this here now. If you're still watching, quick bonus, I've got a 416 upper, like an A1 upper coming with a 14.5 inch barrel. Pretty excited about that. That'll be here pretty quick. I might be able to throw that into some content before Christmas here, but we'll see. Anyways, that's it. That's the show today. Thank you a ton for checking me out. Definitely appreciate it, and we'll see you guys all soon. Arm&Gun out.